The massive silver ship drifted through space like a dying giant. Inside its cold hulls, Commander Vextall stared at the holographic display with fear in his crystal blue eyes. The image showed something that made even the bravest aliens tremble. A swirling mass of black energy that ate everything in its path. It took the Helix worlds, Vextall whispered to his officers. All 12 planets. Gone in 3 days. The other alien commanders around the table shifted nervously. Some had tentacles that moved like nervous snakes. Others had scales that changed color when they felt afraid. But they all shared the same look of hopelessness. Dr. Nirakos from the Nexus Collective touched the hologram with her long, thin fingers. The image zoomed in to show the storm's edge. It looked like a hungry mouth eating the stars themselves. Our computers say it will reach the core worlds in 2 months, she said quietly. Nothing we have can stop it. The storm had a name that struck fear into every alien heart. The Devouring Storm. It had appeared 6 months ago at the edge of their galaxy. At first, the alien leaders thought it was just another space anomaly. They had seen many strange things in their thousands of years of space travel. But this was different. This thing was alive and it was hungry. Elder Zach Moore of the ancient Helix Empire slammed his fist on the table. His people had ruled space for over 10,000 years. They had built cities on stars and turned entire planets into gardens. Must be something we can do, he growled. We are not primitive animals. We have technology that can move planets. Technology means nothing to this storm, replied Dr. Nirakis. It eats energy, it eats matter, it eats space itself. Our greatest weapons only make it stronger. In the back of the room, a young Zephyrian scientist named Kethvar worked quietly at his small console. While the great leaders argued about impossible solutions, he was doing something different. He was listening to radio signals from faraway worlds. Most of the signals were boring: trade reports, weather updates, military communications from various alien colonies. But one set of signals caught his attention. They came from a small blue planet in a distant star system. The planet was called Earth, and it was home to a species called humans. The aliens had noticed these humans before, but they had ignored them. Humans were too primitive to matter. They had only just learned to leave their planet's atmosphere. Kethvar listened to the human broadcasts with growing interest. These creatures were so different from the advanced aliens. Where the aliens were calm and logical, the humans were emotional and unpredictable. Where the aliens followed careful plans, the humans seemed to make things up as they went along. But there was something else in the human voices, something that the aliens had lost long ago. Hope, even when the humans talked about their wars and problems, they never seemed to give up. They always believed they could find a way to win. One broadcast made Kethvar sit up straight. A human leader was talking about their latest space mission. We know the odds are against us, the human said. But we've beaten impossible odds before. We don't know the meaning of surrender. Kethvar's mentor, Dr. Yexkol, walked over to see what the young scientist was doing. Still listening to those primitive broadcasts, he asked. Should be. Helping us find a real solution. What if they are the solution? Kethvar asked quietly. Dr. Yexkol laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Those creatures, they barely understand basic physics. They still use chemical rockets to travel between their planets. What could they possibly do against a force that destroyed the Helix Empire? Kethvar looked back at his console. Human broadcasts continued to stream in. Songs, stories, news reports, and something else, military communications. The humans were always fighting something. They fought each other. They fought their environment. They fought diseases. And they fought natural disasters. But they never stopped fighting. Aka! Maybe that's exactly what we need, Kethvar whispered. The meeting continued for hours. Out! The alien leaders shared their latest reports. The storm was moving faster than they had predicted. It had found a way to jump between star systems without traveling through normal space. Soon, it would reach the core worlds where billions of aliens lived. Some leaders suggested evacuation. They could load their people onto the biggest ships and flee to other galaxies. But the storm seemed to be following them. It appeared wherever. They went. Others suggested fighting. They could gather every warship in the galaxy and make a final stand. But their weapons had already failed. Storm absorbed energy attacks and grew stronger. Physical weapons passed through it like smoke. As the meeting ended, the alien leaders returned to their ships with heavy hearts. They would continue to look for solutions, but privately, many of them had already given up hope. Only Kethvar remained. Optimistic, he had made a decision. He would send a message to the humans. It was probably useless, but someone had to warn them. And maybe, just maybe, these strange primitive creatures would surprise everyone. The storm was coming for Earth. And soon the galaxy would learn what happened when you threatened a species that had never learned how to surrender. The message from space arrived on a Tuesday morning at the Global Defense Command Center in Seoul. Dr. Kim Hannah was drinking her third cup of coffee when the alien transmission appeared on her screen. The words were translated by the computer, but they still seemed impossible to believe. Warning to the inhabitants of Earth, a cosmic phenomenon called the devouring storm approaches your solar system. We estimate arrival in 67 of your days. We're sorry we cannot offer assistance. Evacuation is your only option. May your species find peace in its final moments. Admiral Park Juno read the message 3 times before calling an emergency. Meeting. Within hours, the leaders of Earth's United Space Fleet gathered in the command center. The room was full of worried faces as they watched the holographic display showing the approaching storm. So let me understand this correctly, said General Lee Taiho, his voice tight with tension. This storm has destroyed civilizations that are thousands of years ahead of us. And these aliens are telling us to run away? Dr. Kim Hannah stood up from her chair. She was a small woman, but her voice filled the room. They're wrong, she said firmly. This storm isn't unstoppable. It's just never been fought properly. The room fell silent. Admiral Park Juno leaned forward. Explain. I've been studying. The data they sent us, Hannah said, pulling up charts and graphs on the main screen. Look at how every alien civilization fought this thing. They used energy weapons, gravity manipulators, and reality benders. All very advanced technology. And it didn't work, interrupted Captain Oh Min-ha. The storm ate their weapons and got stronger. Exactly, Hannah replied with a smile. They've been trying to solve this like a math problem, but some things can't be calculated. Some things have to be felt. General Lee Taiho frowned. Doom. You mean these aliens have been peaceful for thousands of years, Hannah explained. They've forgotten how to be desperate. They've forgotten how to fight with everything they have. But we haven't. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Admiral Park Juno spoke. What are you suggesting? Project Defiance, Hannah said. We turn our entire solar system into a weapon. Every ship, every station, every piece of technology gets retrofitted for war. We're not going to run. We're going to make a stand. The project began immediately. While the alien coalition retreated to their distant colonies, humanity did something that surprised everyone watching. They prepared to fight the impossible. Captain Oh Min-ho took charge of converting the cargo ships. These massive vessels were designed to carry supplies between planets, but Min-ho had a different idea. We're turning these freight haulers into kinetic bombardment platforms, he told. His engineering team, if energy weapons don't work, we'll try throwing rocks really, really hard. The engineers worked day and night, installing railguns and mass drivers on ships that had never been designed for combat. The cargo holds that once carried food and supplies now held thousands of tungsten rods, each one capable of hitting with the force of a nuclear weapon. Dr. Yoon Sira worked on the most ambitious part of the project. She was trying to build something called a reality anchor. The theory was simple. If the storm could bend space and time, maybe they could hold it steady long enough to fight back. We're going to use the sun as a power source, she explained to her team. Every solar panel, every collector, every piece of equipment that can gather energy, we'll focus it all through a network of satellites around Earth. The work was dangerous. Several times the experimental equipment overloaded and nearly destroyed the stations. But the humans kept trying. They rebuilt, redesigned, and tried again. Lieutenant Commander Choi Wan led the fighter squadrons in new training exercises. The pilots practiced maneuvers that would have been impossible for the careful, logical aliens. They learned to fly by instinct, to make split-second decisions that couldn't be calculated in advance. "We're not fighting like soldiers," Juan told his pilots. "We're fighting like humans. That means we do whatever it takes to win." The alien refugees watched through their long-range sensors as humanity prepared for war. They couldn't understand what they were seeing. These humans were using primitive technology. They were using it in ways that had never been tried before. Kethvar, a young Zephyrian scientist, sent regular reports to the coalition leadership. "They're not behaving like any species we've studied," he reported. "They know they're going to lose, but they're acting like they've already won." The storm was now only 3 weeks away. The alien coalition had written off the Earth system as lost. But on every human ship, in every station, and on every planet, the same message was being broadcast. "This is Admiral Park Juno speaking to all human forces. In 3 weeks, we face something that has never been defeated. The aliens tell us it's impossible to win. But we are human. We don't know the meaning of impossible. We stand together. We fight together, and we win together. Earth does not kneel." The message was picked up by alien receivers across the galaxy. For the first time in months, some of the refugees felt something they had almost forgotten: hope. The storm was coming. But humanity was ready to show the universe what happened when you threatened a species that had never learned how to surrender. The storm arrived like a living nightmare. From his command ship, Admiral Park Juno watched the edge of their solar system turn black as the devouring storm rolled forward like a massive wave of darkness. The alien coalition's long-range sensors showed the same terrifying sight from their safe hiding places far away.
"All ships.
This is command." Juno's voice crackled across every frequency. "Today we show the universe that Earth doesn't kneel." Human fleet moved into position in a way that amazed the watching aliens. Instead of forming neat battle lines like proper military forces, the humans scattered across space in what looked like complete chaos. But there was a plan behind the madness. Captain Oh Minho commanded the converted cargo vessels from the bridge of his flagship. These massive ships had been hauling supplies between planets just weeks ago. Now they were loaded with thousands of tungsten rods, each one as long as a telephone pole and sharp as a spear. "Target the storm's leading edge," Minho ordered his gunners. "Fire everything we have." The railguns opened fire with a sound like thunder. Thousands of metal projectiles shot toward the storm at incredible speed. The alien watchers expected the rods to disappear harmlessly into the darkness, just like their energy weapons had done. But something impossible happened. The storm flinched. "What?" gasped Dr. Nirakos from the alien command center. "The storm's coherence matrix is fluctuating. It's not possible." Kethvar studied his instruments with growing excitement. The kinetic impacts are creating disruptions. In the storm's structure, it's like punching a soap bubble. The storm tried to adapt, sending tendrils of dark energy toward the human ships. But the humans were ready. Lieutenant Commander Choi Wan led his fighter squadrons in a dancing pattern through space, moving like birds avoiding a predator. "Echo Squadron, break left," Wan called to his pilots. "Delta Squadron, dive below the energy stream. Don't let it lock onto you." The fighters moved with a grace that defied every rule of space combat the aliens knew. Where alien pilots would calculate the perfect trajectory, human pilots flew by instinct. They zigged when they should have zagged, turned when they should have gone straight, and somehow avoided every attack. From Earth's surface, Dr. Yunsera watched her instruments as the reality anchor came online. Solar panels across the entire planet fed power into the massive device. The energy buildup was so intense that the aurora lights could be seen even in daylight. "Solar power at maximum," she reported to Admiral Juno. "Anchor field activating. We're not just defending anymore. We're holding space itself steady." The storm raged against Earth's defenses, but something strange was happening. Every time it tried to bend reality around the human ships, the anchor field pushed back. The storm had never encountered resistance like this before. Captain Ominha's cargo ships continued their bombardment. But now they were using different tactics. Instead of firing at the storm's edge, they were shooting at specific points that Dr. Yunsira had calculated. It coordinates 7-7 Alpha, Minho ordered, and then 4-2 Beta. We're not trying to destroy it, we're trying to confuse it. The tungsten rods struck the storm at precise locations, creating ripples in its structure. The alien scientists watched in amazement as the cosmic phenomenon began to show signs of instability. "It's working," whispered Kethvar. "They're not trying to overpower the storm. They're trying to make it make mistakes." The storm responded by sending massive energy waves toward Earth, but Dr. Yunsira's reality anchor held firm. The waves crashed against the field like ocean waves against a cliff. "Anchor field holding steady," she reported. "The storm is fragmenting around us." Lieutenant Commander Choi Wan saw an opening in the storm's defenses. "All squadrons, follow me. We're going into the heart of this thing." The fighter pilots followed their commander deeper into the storm than any ship had ever gone before. The darkness around them was so complete that their instruments could barely function.
Ow.
But they pressed on, guided by human instinct and determination.
I
"Can see something," Juan reported. "There's a structure in the center. It looks like ... like a brain." The storm's core was a swirling mass of energy that pulsed like a living heart. This was where the phenomenon made its decisions, where it chose which worlds to devour next. "All ships target the core," Admiral Juno ordered. "Fire everything we have." The combined attack from cargo ships, fighters, and orbital platforms struck the storm's center all at once. The tungsten rods, energy beams, and missile warheads hit the core in a devastating barrage. The storm screamed. It was a sound that traveled through space itself. A cry of pain and rage that every living being in the solar system could feel in their bones. The alien coalition, watching from their distant refuge, had never heard anything like it. The devouring storm. The cosmic horror that had destroyed civilizations for months was hurt. For the first time in its existence, it was losing a battle. But the victory came at a cost. Several human ships were caught in the storm's death throes, their crews sacrificing themselves to keep the attack going. The storm was weakening, but it was far from defeated. The real battle was just beginning. The devouring storm had never felt pain before. For months, it had consumed worlds without resistance, absorbing the energy of dying civilizations like a hungry animal. But now, something was fighting back, and the storm was confused. Captain Ominho's cargo ships pushed deeper into the storm's heart. Their hulls glowing red from the heat of the dark energy around them, the converted freight haulers groaned. Under the pressure, but they kept moving forward. Human engineering had found a way to survive in an environment that should have been impossible. "Hull integrity at 30%, reported as chief engineer over the CUM system. "We can't take much more of this." "We don't need to take much more," Minho replied, watching his targeting display. "Just long enough to finish the job." The storm tried to crush the human ships with waves of twisted space-time, but Dr. Yunsira's reality anchor held firm. From Earth's surface, she watched her instruments as the anchor field pushed back against the cosmic horror. "Yeah, the storm is trying to bend reality around our ships," she reported to Admiral Park Juno. "But we're holding space steady. Can't use its favorite tricks." The alien coalition watched in amazement from their distant refuge. Commander Vextal could barely believe what his sensors were telling him. "The storm's coherence is dropping to 60%, he announced to his officers. "How is this possible?" Kethvar, the young Zephyrian scientist, studied the human tactics with growing respect. "They're not trying to understand the storm," he explained. "They're trying to break it. Look at their attack patterns. They're hitting it from 12 different directions at once." The storm responded by splitting itself into multiple smaller storms, each one attacking a different part of the human fleet. It was an intelligent move that had worked against the alien civilizations. But humans didn't fight like other species. Lieutenant Commander Choi Wan saw the storm divide and smiled grimly. "All squadrons, new targets. We're going to play a game of tag with these things." The fighter pilots scattered across space, each squadron taking on one of the smaller storms. They flew in patterns that seemed random but were actually carefully planned. When one squadron got in trouble, another would swoop in to help. "Tiger Squadron, you've got one on your tail," Juan called to his pilots. "Shark Squadron, hit it from the side. The fighters worked together like a pack of wolves, using teamwork and courage to overcome an enemy that was far more powerful than any single ship. The storm fragments found themselves surrounded and confused. Dr. Kim Hanna watched the battle from Earth's orbital command center. Her theories about fighting the storm were proving correct. The storm is used to facing organized resistance, she explained to the other scientists. It expects logical, predictable attacks. But humans don't fight logically. Captain Ominhos. Cargo ships reached the storm's original core, the swirling mass of energy that served as its brain. The core was trying to reunite with its scattered parts, but the human attacks kept disrupting its attempts. Target acquired, Minho announced. All ships, fire everything we have left. The final barrage from the cargo ships struck the core with devastating force. Thousands of tungsten rods, moving at incredible speed, punched through the storm's defenses. The core began to collapse in on itself, but the storm had one last trick. It began to pull all of its scattered parts back together, creating a massive explosion that would destroy everything in the solar system. The aliens watching from far away prepared to witness the end of Earth. Then something unexpected happened. The alien coalition ships, the ones that had been hiding in the outer systems, began to move toward Earth. "What are they doing?" gasped Doctor. Naira Dashko's talked. Commander Vextal stood up from his command chair. "They're inspiring us," he said quietly. "If these primitive humans can fight the impossible, then so can we." The alien ships that had fled in terror now returned to join the battle. Ships from dozens of different species, each one bringing their own unique weapons and abilities. The Zephyrions brought their crystal energy cannons. The Nexus Collective deployed their gravity hammers. The Helix survivors activated their reality scramblers. "This is Admiral Park Juno to all Allied forces," came the transmission from the human command ship. "Welcome to the fight. Let's finish this together." The combined assault of hundreds of ships from dozens of species struck the storm as it tried to reform. The attack came from every direction at once, overwhelming the cosmic horror's ability to defend itself. The storm's death scream echoed across the galaxy. It was a sound of defeat, of a force that had seemed unstoppable finally meeting its match. The dark energy that had consumed so many worlds began to dissipate, spreading harmlessly through space. Catch-VAR watched his instruments as the storm's energy readings dropped to 0. "It's over," he whispered. "The storm is dead." The human ships, battered and barely functional, began to regroup around Earth. Many vessels had been lost in the battle, their crews making the ultimate sacrifice. But they had done the impossible. It killed something that couldn't be. Killed in the aftermath of the battle as rescue ships searched for survivors. The galaxy began to understand what had happened. The species that everyone had dismissed as primitive. It taught them the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the greatest victory comes not from superior technology, but from the refusal to give up. 6 months after the storm's defeat, the galaxy looked completely different. The old Galactic Coalition headquarters on Zephyria Prime had been abandoned. Instead, delegates from hundreds of species now gathered in a massive space station orbiting Earth. The humans had built it in just 4 months. Working alongside alien engineers who were amazed by human construction methods, Ambassador Seog Ho stood at the center of the Great Assembly Hall, looking out at representatives from species that had once considered humans too primitive to notice. Now they hung on his every word. He was young for a diplomat, but the battle against the storm had aged everyone who survived it. "We didn't win because we were stronger," Jiho said, his voice carrying clearly through the hall's translation systems. "We won because we remembered something that the galaxy had forgotten. We remembered how to be desperate." In the audience, Commander Vextal nodded his crystal head slowly. The Zephyrian leader had changed since the battle. His people had ruled space for thousands of years, but they had become soft during their long peace. The humans had reminded them what it meant to fight for survival. Dr. Kim Hanna walked to the front of the hall, carrying a small device that looked like a glowing cube. She was now the head of the Coalition's new Department of Impossible Solutions, a job that would have been considered ridiculous before the storm. "We've been studying the storm's remains," she announced. "We've discovered something important. The storm wasn't just a random disaster. It was a test. The hall fell silent. Representatives from dozens of species leaned forward to hear better. The storm was created by an ancient civilization, Hannah continued. They built it to test younger species. If a civilization was too comfortable, too predictable, the storm would destroy them. But if they could adapt, if they could fight in ways that couldn't be calculated, they would survive. Dr. Narakis, from the Nexus Collective, raised one of her tentacles. Are you saying the storm was deliberately hunting us? Not hunting, Hannah replied, teaching the hard way. General Lee Taiho stood up from his seat. He was now the commander of the Coalition's unified military forces. After the battle, all the alien species had agreed that humans should lead their combined fleets. They had proven they knew how to win impossible battles. The storm taught us that technology alone isn't enough, Taiho said. Our weapons, our ships, our computers, they're all tools. But the most important thing is the will to use them. Captain Oh Minho had been promoted to admiral after the battle. His cargo ships had been the key to victory, proving that sometimes the most unlikely weapons were the most effective. He now commanded a fleet of converted civilian vessels from dozens of species. We're not just rebuilding our military, Minho explained to the assembly. We're rebuilding our way of thinking. Every species brings something unique to the fight. The Zephyrians have precision. The Nexus Collective has patience. The Helix survivors have wisdom. And humans have stubbornness. The hall filled with something that sounded like laughter, though it came from dozens of different types of throats and vocal cords. Dr. Yoon. Sierra had been working on new projects since the battle. Her reality anchor technology was now being installed on ships throughout the galaxy. But she had also been studying something else, the nature of impossible problems. We've created the Impossible Solutions Protocol, she announced. When we face a problem that seems to have no answer, we don't give up. We approach it from a different angle, try things that shouldn't work, and sometimes they do work. Kethvar, the young Zephyrian scientist who had first suggested contacting Earth, was now serving as the Coalition's chief researcher. He had spent months studying human psychology and behavior, trying to understand what made them so different. Humans have something that we lost, he explained to the assembly. They have the ability to hope when hope seems foolish. They can see victory when everyone else sees defeat. This isn't just emotion, it's a way of thinking that opens up possibilities we never considered. Lieutenant Commander Choi Hwan, now promoted to Wing Commander, led the Coalition's new mixed-species fighter squadrons. Human pilots flew alongside alien crews, teaching them the art of improvisation and instinct-based combat. The storm is gone, Hwan said, but there will be other storms, other tests. We need to be ready for challenges we can't even imagine yet. Ambassador Seo Jiho returned to the center of the hall as the session drew to a close. Through the great windows, Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, surrounded by the ships of 100 different worlds. The galaxy is vast and dangerous, he said, but it's also filled with species willing to stand together against the impossible. We've learned that the greatest strength doesn't come from our technology or our weapons. It comes from our refusal to accept defeat. The assembly rose, to their feet or tentacles or whatever they used to stand. The sound of applause filled the hall, some clapping, some clicking, some making musical tones. It was the sound of unity. Earth had ripped through the storm, and in doing so, had taught the galaxy that sometimes the greatest victories come from the species that everyone underestimates. The humans had stood alone when they needed to, but now they would never stand alone again. The age of the new alliance had begun.